So, welcome back. We have just discussed briefly about how education psychology can be part of the reflective practice, how it is very important to everybody, especially the teacher. So, this is going to be a more deeper discussion on the four key elements, the four justification of having an education psychology as a reflective practices. So back to this, number one, reflecting your teaching practice. So how education psychology can be reflecting on your teaching practices. Reflection can be supported by a range of activities. What does it mean by reflection? Okay, so here you can see that there are several tools or several a strategy for you to reflect on your teaching practices. Number one, reflective journal and portfolios. So how does it reflective journals look like? Okay, so I have given the example of one of the teacher that she has regularly written the reflective journal of her teaching and learning teaching practices. For example, sounds like, it's like a diary. Okay, it's like a diary. So you can use this imagine. For example, I just read a little bit of, passage of Anne's reflective journal. So Anne was teaching a year 8 French class. The following is from her term 1 journal. So Anne has reflected. I want to use immersion, but it is too overwhelming for some students. They just give up. There is a wide range of abilities, with some students able to translate the cartoon with ease and others with no idea of the basics pronouns. It is very difficult for them to do exercises with minimal vocab and for some little understanding of how the language works. I think group work would allow the better students to move ahead while the beginners learn the basics. We'll have to work on my classroom management skills for this work. Spoke to another teacher, which is Anne, has spoken to another teacher about what she does with her German class, and she has set formal grammar exercises for a small group of difficult ones who were way behind the rest of the class and very disruptive. Not sure how motivating this will be, but she says that they are powering through them and like the structure and the idea that they can do it. Success is everything. Should look up the research on using immersion in Australia. I'm sure other teachers must have encountered this. Meanwhile, for next lesson, set up activities with a series of exercises, stamps on board, and some direct instruction, small groups with cards in English to complete the stamps. So this is one example of teachers and reflective journal, or it's like a diary. Okay, so ever since Anne has written the reflective journal, she has written down what is her obstacles in teaching. What was the obstacles during her teaching and learning? What was her strength, and what she did to improve? She has been asking for the teachers and asked for the suggestions. Okay, and then she has moved towards the plan. She says that she will be going to have the collaborative learning strategy, a group discussion, having flashcard and whatnot. Okay, so that is the reflective journal, and it will lead to the improvement. So you will see, okay, this is what I have done, and I have some difficulties on that, and I will improve further. Okay, so that is one of the tools. So number 2, mentors, critical friends, and colleagues. So how you reflect on your teaching practices? How are you going to have a more collaborative strategy between you and your community? So you may have mentors, you may have critical friends, and you also have your colleagues, other colleagues. to help you in giving feedback on what you have done, whether it is good or it is not so good. Okay. All right. Number 3, you may have observation. So normally I will ask my students to capture the video, to record the video of your teaching practices during your lesson, if it is given the consent by the teachers, by the principal. You may observe on your own, or you may record the video and you observe later. But sometimes we didn't realize what we have done in that particular class. So by recording your actual practices, and then you observe back with your recorded video, it will gives you ideas. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be doing that. Okay, you can give ideas. So you can see that, okay, I'm not going to have this strategy later because it doesn't fit with these students. Okay, and then last but not least is actually quality teaching rounds. So you may look back in your quality teaching rounds. Okay, number 2, developing your personal philosophy. So these I have outlined and listed. There are some questions. How are you going to start with your development of personal philosophy? Okay. So number 1, what does teaching involve to improve learning? Okay, you ask your back, what does teaching involve to improve learning? All right. Number 2, what and who has an impact upon learning? What are the roles of standards and academic achievement? What are the roles of the standards that we have? Okay. What is the role of the teacher? What makes an effective teacher? What is the role of the engaged learner? If we are going to have our students to be more engaging in the classroom, what is their role as an engaged learner? What is learning? What makes an effective learner? What is the role of an engaging and motivational atmosphere? So you may have a lot of questions asking for yourself to develop your personal philosophy. For example, another more sets of questions is that why are we doing like this? Why are we using this strategy? Why are we doing the experiment method? Why are we having this one? Why are we having this? So there are a lot of questions that can you think of, elements of education psychology, and it will develop your personal philosophy, your professional development. Okay, number 3 is that using research to inform your practices. So what does it mean by informing? From the research, it will inform you what needs to do. So it is things like that. So as you can see, you may make sense of your experiences by comparing them with research. For example, you have done your strategy in the classroom, you have done your method like this, but going through with the findings from other researchers, you may see that, these are the main categories of factors that affect learning in health, for example, in health sciences students. So research shows that students' learning is contributed from the psychological needs, the student profile, classmate profile, professor profile, future expectative, class methodology, and curricular content. So these are the research informed in the findings. So you may see what is the largest portion of the factors of that affect learning, which is, you can see that the last portion is that class methodology. You see that this is the green one. You may see the class methodology has given you the biggest portion, and followed by the curricular content. So based on that, informed by the previous research, you may see that, okay, I need to have a more effective classroom methodology. And I also need to relook back on the content that I have delivered to the student. So, and then you may also see that this is the percentage of achievement variance according to the Hatties research. Okay, it shows that students, home, school, classroom, curricula, teaching strategies has different variants according to the learning. Okay, so by this informed from the previous research, you may see that, oh, you have to do this based on the findings. All right, last but not least is that conducting research as a reflective teacher. So how are you going to conduct your own research in your classroom to offer insights about the teaching and learning? So it will help you to integrate your experience with theory and previous research, and also you may be carefully designed and conducted conduct your future action, your future plan. Okay, so this is something that you can see, the flow of how are you going to start looking at the research, the action research, the research process, and this is going to be the in detail process of conducting action research. Number one, as what I have explained previously. Number one, you have to reflect, identify the issue, and develop research questions. Okay, for example, you want to focus on how using flashcard, or how are you going to have gamification in the classroom? Is that helpful for the students? Is that beneficial for the students? So you have to identify the issue and develop research questions. And after that, you may be developing your strategy. You have to start planning. All right. If let's say the student doesn't want to be responsive to what you have delivered, they are not really responsive, they are very disrupting, and you may develop a strategy. Okay, so for example, as what I have mentioned just now, you may want to integrate, or you may want to initiate some intervention. For example, the gamification in your strategy. And then you execute the plan. Once you have implemented the strategy, you execute the strategy, and then you have to start looking at the data, which is you have to observe, you collect the data as evidence of how the gamification is very helpful in reducing the students' disruptive behavior. So all the data that you have observed, it needs to be written, and that is the very meaningful evidence to yourself. And then last but not least is your reflection back, revise your plans based on your evaluation. So if let's say you have integrated the gamification in the classroom, so based on that, okay, you may see what is wrong, what is good, what is something that needs to be improved, and you have to revise back your plans based on your evaluation. Okay, so this is just a visual or visual and written elements for you to ponder 10 ways to be a more reflective teacher. So it is a lot of strategy that you can do, and some of it are you may recording yourself teaching, you share that video with your PLN, the Professional Learning Network. You may invite the colleagues to observe your class, or you may ask the students for a paid feedback, and you may ask yourself daily, how did it go and how do you know? Okay, you also need to keep a minimalist blog or journal, as what we had discussed just now. Be honest with, but not critical of yourself. Surround yourself with enthusiasm. Look for what's working and diversify your metrics. So that could be helpful for you to be an effective teacher. Okay, all right. I think that's all. Thank you.